talking about pollen.
Oh, yeah.
My dog is outside, they got it on.
I didn't either until
Yes, they carry it in the house.
They bring it in.
heavy rain.
Yeah, we had that conversation recently at my house about how much they bring in. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
2 to 4 inch spots on the across
and
all of Lake Georgia.
No, but it was. I said, well, they're bringing it in. And then they get
Just
in their
walking
shade.
out my yard, it looked like a cloud. Oh, sorry.
I run my truck through the car wash the other day and it's green already.
Oh, it don't take but a day.
Good evening, everyone. Want to welcome you to the Monday, April the 8th, 2024 meeting of the Rome City Commission. And we start every meeting off with a invocation and a pledge. Tonight is my honor, and if you'd like to stand, we will begin. You don't have to stand. We invite you to stand. Father, you have blessed this community. You have blessed each of us, and we should be forever thankful for the guidance and the wisdom that you bestow upon us. We ask as we move forward as commissioners of this city that we think back on those who have served before us and those that are sitting out in a classroom somewhere that may be affected, impacted, or inspired in some way by what we do. We need your wisdom. We need your guidance. Father, we pray that your hand in some way will bring us back to an environment where we can be civil toward each other and get back into where we're working with each other instead of trying to find ways to work against each other. And it's a worldwide thing, Father, and we know it's your world. Guide us and bless us, and we thank you for everything that you've done. We ask that you continue to bless this community. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Clerk, if you will, call the roll.
Sir. Mayor McDaniel.
Here.
Commissioner Bojo.
Here.
Brock. Here. Cochran.
Here.
Beeman.
Here.
Quick.
Here.
Collins.
Here.
Robinson.
Here.
Thank you. You've seen the minutes of the March 25th, 24 City Commission meeting. If there are no objections, we will approve those by common consent. We have one proclamation tonight, Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and I'm going to call on our Public Safety Commission, our committee chair, Harry Brock. Is someone here to receive this, if you will?
Sexual Assault Awareness Month calls attention to the significant, prevalent, and devastating issue of sexual violence that impacts members of Rome and Floyd County community. The City of Rome and Floyd County join advocates and communities across the country because we're strongest when we raise our voices together to change the culture to prevent sexual violence. Prevention requires addressing the root causes and social norms that allow sexual violence to exist. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and each day of the year is an opportunity to create change for the community, for the future. The theme of this year's Sexual Assault Awareness Campaign is Drawing Connections, Prevention Demands Equity. In an effort to acknowledge the importance of sexual assault awareness, the Rome City Commission and Floyd County Board of Commissioners do hereby designate the month of April 2024 as Sexual Assault Awareness Month.
Good luck, Judge.
Get in there with her, Harry. Yeah, there you go.
you're welcome to go to the podium and say something if you'd like. Give us your name and address, please.
My name is Kimberly King. I live at 15 Hearthwood Drive in Rome, Georgia. I'm a proud resident of Rome, Georgia, and have been for the majority of my life. I cannot begin to tell you how thankful we are for a community that not only supports but invests in the resources that are needed to respond to these types of victimizations, right? We all wish for the world that was completely changed and without evil and without, all of the darkness. But unfortunately, we live in this world as is, right? And so thank God, literally, and thank our community, thank everyone for their support and just ensuring that our services are always available, always free, and always wide-reaching to the communities that we serve. We not only provide services to Floyd, but also Bartow, Polk, Chattooga, Gordon, and so we're very, very thankful. I think a second ago, he mentioned in the proclamation, it says, every day is an opportunity, right, for change. And so I do encourage you to understand that you can invest in any type of way, whether that's, adding something else to a conversation that supports a survivor, or just even mentioning that the Sexual Assault Center exists, or anything like that. And so we do appreciate your support, very, very much so. And I do have to give a big shout out to our board of directors in our community. We could not do this work without their very strong support, and we have one of those individuals in the room tonight. I believe is the legal representation for the community, but Frank Beecham is one of our board members and has been for well over a decade, and almost he's in his second decade now. And so anyway, we are very thankful. And if there's ever anything that we can do to make our relationship better, we're always receptive and open to that. Yep.
We very much appreciate the work that you do, and I know it's not always easy work, but it's very essential to the community, so thank you so much. We have one registered guest tonight, Devin Desai. We have no resolutions. First reading, we have 2 alcohol ordinance-related issues, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that come from our planning office. Joe, do you want to mention the alcohol ordinance amendments?
Well, just the fact that they are going on first reading tonight, we'll have, of course, more discussion and a vote 2 weeks from tonight, but they are 2 separate ordinances. One is a new concept regarding the consideration of a standard drink price for our food-drink ratio calculation. And the second one regarding excise tax does not change our excise tax in any way, but it does clean up some old, out-of-date language and put us more in compliance with Georgia statutes. Just carrying on, then we also will have an ordinance going on first reading tonight, continuing with the process to close an alley off of East 14th Street. You all adopted a resolution to that effect about 6 weeks ago, and it's been advertised, and now we're moving to the ordinance phase. And then beyond that, you have 4 items coming to you from the Planning Commission. You can see SUP for 213 East 16th Street. And this request is for an adult daycare center for that property. And that property is zoned high-density traditional residential. The request for rezoning at property on North Broad Street Extension, going from suburban residential to multifamily residential. That one was denied by the Planning Commission, but it'll come to you all for a public hearing. The 4th request is for West 8th Avenue, and the request is to rezone that property from community commercial to urban mixed use. That is unanimous recommendation by the Planning Commission for approval. And then finally, 409 Hardy Avenue, the request to rezone that particular site from high-density traditional residential to office and institutional. That also has unanimous recommendation for approval. Public hearing on those items and a second reading on the first items will all take place at our next meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. On second reading tonight, we have an assembly permit ordinance amendment, and I'm going to call on Mr. Frank Beecham, City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we have a proposed amendment that we recommend to modernize our assembly ordinance. It's on its second or third draft, and we've presented it to public safety a couple of times. The two main things that this ordinance adds are an exception for spontaneous events that allows a assembly to occur without the need to obtain a permit if the assembly is based on a spontaneous event occasioned by news or affairs coming into public knowledge without the time to go get a permit. And then the other is to set our number of persons at 25 for when permits are generally required. And those are the biggest changes in the amendment, Mr. Mayor. So we would ask that the commission approve this.
Okay, we will need a motion to approve that amendment.
I will make that motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. I would like
Commissioner
to,
Collins, please.
like to ask the attorney, exception that you're talking about on a spontaneous gathering, does that also involve parks, neighborhood parks, et cetera? Is the number still 25 when you're talking about neighborhood parks, et cetera?
Well, I'll address your first question first. The one about spontaneous events allows someone who wants to assemble without the need for a permit, but the place of their assembly is fixed, in that it has to be here at City Hall or on the City Hall grounds. And then the second question was about Parks and Rec, and with Parks and Rec, no, you're shaking your head, so I must not be answering the right question.
I was asking about the neighborhood parks. Could more than 25 people assemble in it?
Yes, if they got a permit, they could assemble.
Let me make sure I'm clear, and I hope that the commission can understand. If this law is put in place, it's not culturally sensitive at all. On any given day, I live in Somerville Park, and on any given Saturday or Sunday, the Latinos, they gather for birthday parties, special events, etc., and there's as many as 35 or 50. Are we telling the Latino community that that's possibly going to be interrupted? The other culturally sensitive situation has to do with African Americans. It's already pretty much a bottleneck as to where they can congregate, meet people, etc. And one of those would be another neighborhood park, and that would be Banny Jones. On any given Saturday, Sunday, especially summertime, they out of school, the city's taken the liberty to create these neighborhood parks with these provisions. You might have a pickup game that'll draw anywhere from 35 to 50 people. And are you telling us that that situation is going to be interrupted, and tell them that you gotta at least disperse and have less than 25 people here for the pickup game? I'm just asking a question.
Well, what I would say to that is currently, if you don't pass this, if there is one person doing those activities, then it's an illegal assembly, because that's the way our current ordinance is written. So what this does is expands that about 25 times.
Again, I'm asking the commission, are you putting those limitations on these cultures, meaning the African Americans in their neighborhoods, and as well as the Latinos when it comes to these here neighborhood parks? And the other thing about that is, listening to what you just said, Mr. Attorney, are we setting a law that's similar, or what you're telling me is similar like our smoking ordinance downtown, where the law cannot enforce it? I just would say, if we're going to make these laws, simply go ahead and enforce them. I would love to see our officers come over there on a Saturday or Sunday and tell the Latinos, you can't play soccer out here no more. You people can't sit in their cars and watch you anymore, because there's more than 25 of you. I would love to see you come to Banner Jones Park, if that's what this here commission is saying. Listen, half of y'all gonna have to go back down the street. These parks no longer can hold more than 25 people. So, Ms. Beaman, Commissioner, I'm right with you when you're saying, at least for the culture part of it, Commissioner Pro Temp and Commissioner Brock and Commissioner Sammy and Randy, that culturally, that's just not how that works. But and again, I don't want to help create a law that where the law enforcement, the chief can't go do his job. If you're gonna make this law tonight, I'd like to see him over there next week.
If I could ask for a clarification from the attorney on what a spontaneous event is.
It's an event that's occasioned by news or affairs coming into public knowledge less than 4 days prior to your desire to assemble.
And the number that is, we have gone by, I think the current ordinance is a person, one single person. Is there a number?
Yes, but that doesn't have anything to do with the spontaneous event exception.
Okay, so if Commissioner Collins is asking about a city park or a get-together, and those are routine activities that happen. Typically, you've got staff there, you've got kids and adults watching over. In the past, it's been my understanding, we didn't have to get a permit for a city park,
No, neighborhood park, Mr. Mayor,
a neighborhood park.
not staff parks.
Okay. Well, we haven't had to have a permit for a neighborhood park.
That's correct. You got these provisions that
I don't
hold,
know the answer to your
that holds more than 25. You got benches out there. You got more than 25 parking spaces, handicap, et cetera.
Well, permits obtained, is that good for just a single day, or is that, could you buy a yearly permit if they wanted to say
One day.
park?
I don't know the answer to that question. That would
one
have to be the chief.
You pay for a permit, it's one day.
Thank you.
So I guess my question is, are we gonna ask maybe it's a neighborhood watch association member, you gotta come down here and you gotta get a permit for these guys to play their basketball pickup games every single day of the summer.
What is the real number? What's the,
I thought it more like what Ms. Beamer was saying, is 75 or under. If you go over to the parts in which you represent Mr. Brock, or you represent Mr. Bojo, go to your neighborhood park. Not, I'm talking about over at Ridge Fair. Go to them. Go in these neighborhoods, these challenge areas. You're not coming out there with that before you count 50 or maybe 60.
So you're saying Ridge Fair doesn't count?
Ridge Fair is not part of this conversation. I'm on the rec department, and those are regulated parks where the mayor is talking about staffed, and they're geared for that.
Ridge Fair is regulated and staffed?
When it comes to an event.
When it comes
But
to
that's not-
when it comes to an event at other parks, they are as well.
No, not neighborhood parks, they're not.
Ridge Fair is not staffed.
So when you talk,
Only doing events that you go get a permit, yes, sir.
so when you
But you
talk,
go out there on a summer day, you're gonna see more than 25 parents and kids on any given time. And I wouldn't want the law enforcement coming over there telling them, hey, look, half of you gotta leave. But if we're gonna set the law, enforce it.
So the
It's already
question we
set.
had downstairs in the
Yeah,
conversation
one person.
was if 25 is not the right number, then what is the right number?
No, like I was saying, Mr. Mayor, culturally sensitive. You could very much go down to Talbot Park on a Saturday, and it could be as many as 75, maybe 100 Latinos. They play soccer. That many cars parked along there watching them with their families. They sit out there on the grass. They eat their food, et cetera. Right up here from there, you got another pickup game because it's multitasking. It's got the basketball court, and it got a tennis court, pickleball, et cetera. You could easily exceed that number. But what you have been had in place without regulating or over-regulating the public dealing with our cultures is an ordinance that pretty much working because every one of the parks, we're gonna have more than one person. And it's not tying up our law enforcement in part of time doing those type things. I think you got an opportunity to send it back to Mr. Brock. I don't mind if Sammy might wanna ride him over there on a Saturday, I'll ride him over there on a Saturday.
I'm in those parks on the
Look
weekend.
at your parks. You just built a pavilion in South Front on Hardy Avenue.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to withdraw my, whatever I did here. And I would like to have this sent back to Public Works, Public Safety, and get some clarification on these rules, because I see both sides of the fence right now. And, you know, I do know they do play basketball in these parks. And I don't know how many gather, but I do know they play. And I'm not sure that should fall under a spontaneous event. Because, so I need to, I'd like to see it sent back to Public Safety.
Oh, if I think the spontaneous event, this whole conversation came about because we had an unlawful assembly situation. And so we tried to address the unlawful assembly situation by changing, amending an ordinance. But in so doing, that I think there are two things that I don't think anybody ever thought about parks or playgrounds or recreational areas. I think people were thinking about protest
Exactly.
and things where there's the potential of civil unrest.
I agree.
So we started down that path, and we ended up with this document. So and because we're up here and there's cameras here and I want the public to understand, we need to have some of this conversation up here before we go back down. The intention was to address a situation that came up where there was civil unrest. And so we attempted to do that, and now it has morphed over into a conversation about, well, how many people are we going to allow to go to playgrounds? And I think we got in the bus, headed to Houston, and we ended up in Charlotte, basically.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's interesting that for 2 decades, we've had assembly permits and code of ethics, and somehow they got challenged to the extreme in the last year. I'm not sure what's going on, but we've got some issues we've got to address, I guess. I mean.
And we do, and so the motion, and I will have to ask our attorney, we had a motion that was made and seconded. The person that made the motion wants to withdraw the motion. So is that matter dead?
I will second Mr. Pro Temp motion to send it back.
We either need to table the motion, and then I'm gonna let y'all tell me, it either needs to be tabled for now or sent back, it's the same thing, to get clarification, because I agree with you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think it was intended for parks and recreation. I think it was intended for civil unrest.
Okay. So let me ask a question while we are on camera, because I want everybody to kind of get a sense of what we will do when we leave here. And let me ask the attorney a question. Is it possible that we have maybe an ongoing permitting process for neighborhood parks and playgrounds? You know, they were put there for the purpose, we put swing sets and splash pads and whatever. They were put there for the purpose of people congregating there. I don't think we ever intended to prevent that or regulate it with this ordinance. Is there a possibility?
Nor do we currently.
Say that
Of the
again.
current?
Nor do we currently
What?
regulate any of those activities.
Yeah.
Right.
So is it, to help us going forward, and again, because we're upstairs and I want everybody to know while we're doing this, is it possible that we could have 2 different practices in place? One ordinance about unlawful assembly, and then another for neighborhood parks, if we could come up with a permitting process for that, that would just be an ongoing process. We don't want to prevent people from going and playing soccer or basketball or whatever.
Mr. Attorney, before you answer that, could I ask you a question? Surely we're not getting in the business of regulating the parks that we put into neighborhoods, just like we do street lights and sidewalks and et cetera.
Well, that was a question that was raised about us having the number of 25. What if in one of those parks you have 50 people show up?
What if we had one now?
We,
Park?
yeah, if we had 50 or 100 people show up. My question is, with this ordinance that we're working on, I never intended it, I never thought the intention was for us to regulate playgrounds.
I thought that a neighborhood park, whatever that capacity is, could be 250 people. It's a neighborhood park. It's up to our law enforcement to monitor it, et cetera.
Yeah, I don't think.
If it's no trouble.
Mr. Mayor, as far as I know, there was no intent. I don't care if it was pickleball or pickup basketball, whether you're white, black, or Hispanic. I'm really not sure how this disproportionately affects minorities, but there was never an intent for this to have anything to do with parks activity.
I never said it was the intent. I basically stated the fact of what it would do.
Mr. Mayor, can we get in this
Without
conversation?
clarity.
Can we have some conversation down here too? So first,
Ma'am, I can't hear you
I
speak.
said, can we have some conversation down here too? Number one, the reason why I even brought up the spontaneous events is because we've got families who we want to utilize those parks, the trails. To me, this is the reason why we put those in, not even just in neighborhoods. But my thing is, right now, a lot of people are not utilizing our services because they don't feel like it's for them. So I got excited about the fact that we had such a wonderful trail that was implemented, and that so many people with health and wellness should be a part of that. So when we started sharing with different people, meet us at the trails, you know, this is a great opportunity for you to get some exercise. And then more people started telling other people about it, and they started coming. So that meant if we got to regulate it, if it's over 25 and 26 people show up, spouses,
Yeah.
families.
Let me just tell you, there was no part of anybody's conversation that this amendment was going to have anything to do with the
And
trails of the
I get
park.
what you're saying.
It only had to do with unlawful assembly because of an incident that happened. We were trying to address that incident that happened. Nobody ever talked about parks or trails or anything like
And
that.
I'm 100%
How we got in
with
that
you.
conversation, when we were trying to deal with the unlawful assembly, that, you know, we walked off the path.
And I get that, but my concern is that what's in writing will affect. And this is what we're gonna have to go by. So right now, this is not right.
Yeah, so the ordinance, I think, has been, we've had an ordinance that needs to be addressed. I think probably, my thought would be, take it back to public safety. I think you're talking about two different actions, though. One of them has to do with unlawful assembly. I think one of them has to, you know, the parks and playgrounds by their very nature are there for public use. We have people from all over northeast Alabama and Georgia and wherever come here and go to our playgrounds and parks. No part of this was ever intended to constrain any of that. Got to be a whole different conversation. It's confused, kind of clouded. So I would entertain a motion that we table this and take it back before the Public Safety Committee.
Mr. Mayor, can I have a chance to talk, please, first? It's up to you, but may I have a chance to talk, please?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if we can do what you are suggesting because it has to be content neutral and there has to be equal application. Public parks are considered, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, under strict scrutiny, just like public sidewalks. Yes. So it's not like we can apply it to one but not the other. So whatever we apply to one, we have to apply to the other. So in terms of the spontaneous event, which seems to be tripping everybody, in my opinion, spontaneous events are not content neutral. And I know there's probably case law to back up the spontaneous event exception, and I get that, but I don't see them as content neutral. And I also think we will have a considerable time, difficult time, determining what is a lawful, permitless assembly of less than 25 people versus a spontaneous event of less than 25 people. I just think that's going to be a problem. And, you know, it's, that's my opinion. And, but I agree we should send it back to public safety and have them take a look at it.
Do we have a motion? Go ahead, Mayor.
Let me just add one more thing.
Commissioner Brock.
So is it our intent to enforce the existing assembly?
No.
It's in place. So you're saying,
One.
so you're saying no?
You got an intent to stop the smoking on Broad, but is it happening? No. So that's why this opportunity came along. The mayor wanted to take a look at it. And rightfully so. You can look at it, you just got to get it right.
Well, we have an ordinance that's in place, and I think it's apparent to everybody that that ordinance either needs to be totally done away with, and we just don't have ordinances. We allow people to gather and do whatever, whenever, and we say, well, it's all First Amendment, y'all have that. Or we try to have a sense of control. And if you're gonna have that sense of control, you go into it understanding you're not gonna make everybody happy. And you've also got to have a realistic number in there that our law enforcement people can enforce. Commissioners can't enforce it. It's got to be done in such a way that our law enforcement people can enforce it. I don't know what the right number is. If it's not 25, does it need to be 39? Does it need to be 62? Does it need to be 4,012? I don't know the right number.
Well, if it's not 25 tonight, it's 1.
It is one, and that's a broken, it's one of those things as we go through, we're gonna have to fix it. There is not a person at this table that has the right answer.
I'm not in the mood
Not a person.
not in the mood for controlling the public, first off. I mean, that's what we got the law for.
So, do we have a motion?
Can I just say one more thing? At some point, 20-something years ago, that 1 was voted for.
Yes, it was. And that probably was the reason why we're discussing it right now, because it was not needed.
We're about families.
Yeah, it was not needed.
Families and people.
I was back there then.
Commissioner Collins, do you remember voting for that?
Absolutely. Yeah, we didn't need that. We don't need to control anybody. That's what we got the law for.
Do we have a motion and a second to send this back to public safety?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Mr. Clerk, call the roll.
Commissioner Bojo,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes.
Cochran,
Yes.
Beaman,
Yes.
Quick,
Yes.
Collins,
Yes?
Robinson.
Yes.
We have nothing continued on first reading. No public hearings. Mr. Clerk,
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Manager,
No report, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Attorney. We appreciate your time. Under my time, the Nova River District groundbreaking will be held on Thursday, April the 11th at 11:30 a.m. on West 3rd Street. And that's a very exciting venture that's taking place there. The Rome, Florida Development Authority will meet Tuesday, April the 16th at 9 a.m. at the Manus Business Center at 800 Broad Street. Commissioner Bojo.
Mr. Mayor, I have no committee reports, but I would like to add that I will be attending the GMA Spring Training event at Brasstown on Thursday and Friday of this week.
Commissioner Brock.
No report.
Commissioner Cochran.
The Historic Preservation Commission meeting for the month of April has been canceled.
Commissioner Beaman.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Doss is not here. His report, Public Works, Traffic, Transit, and Trails Committee meeting scheduled for Wednesday, April the 10th, has been canceled.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor, before we go to that, Commissioner Doss asked me to just acknowledge the plaque ceremony that we had last week at St. Mary's Church. He spoke very well of presentation, and they were very appreciative, and also to acknowledge that Julia Harris was a big part of getting that put together. So just want me to acknowledge that.
Commissioner Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Committee on Committees met this afternoon at 4:30 and make the following nominations for the Land Bank Authority to replace Harry Brock, who is now serving as a city commissioner. We nominate Robert Smith. On the Alcohol Control Commission, reappointing Billy Cooper to an additional 3-year term. Downtown Development Authority, reappointing Taisha Lytle and Elaine Abercrombie to an additional 4-year term. And on the Housing Authority, nominations of Billy Cooper and Tabitha Helms. And those come as a first reading tonight. On the, I guess that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Collins.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. The Northwest Georgia Regional Commission will meet this coming the 18th at 11 a.m. at the Civic Center. this month. And the Rome Parks and Recreation will meet on April the 16th. Isn't that tax day?
Monday is.
At 12 noon at the Locking Dam.
Commissioner Robinson?
That's all I have.
Mr. Mayor, the only thing I have, excuse me, is the Alcohol Control Commission will meet Monday at 5 o'clock right here in this very room. And the Downtown Development Authority will meet Thursday, April the 11th at 8:30 at the Milner Building. That's all I have.
Nothing else coming before the commission. We're adjourned. Thank you.